Actually, I'm just exploring and trying to know in last so many years why human beings create. Before the languages, human beings have created images, but those were the images of the self and the world, or self and sensibilities, and self and something beyond that physicality or the materiality of the world, or combining them in a different way. With due processes in the civilization, finally we came to a particular point where we started using the machine or a gadget simultaneously with science called photography. So that's light capturing the image. When we see, actually we don't see with eyes, you must be knowing by this time, we see with our brain. So the concept of vision is very different when you create an image. So when the camera was invented, camera is a faithfully recording machine. Now faithfully recording machine captures slice or the portion of the space. Now what happens when you capture a space? That is a faithfully recorded image. Most of the time you were watching the photographs here or things there and that. Now what happens is the three-dimensional space gets frozen into two-dimensional space, and two-dimensional space which you are watching is the frozen concept of time. So when you are actually seeing something today, you are not seeing something, you are seeing something which somebody has seen earlier. So is concept of space and time interwoven in the modern, quote unquote, modern media what we are connected with? Because images, millions and millions and billions and zillions of images hovering around you. But here when it gets projected on the screen, that means the image is here, and what you see is somebody has already constructed something in it or chosen in it, which you see where you are not present. So camera becoming the omnipotent, omniscient third eye liberated from human body. So up till now the concept of the third eye is that inner dynamics of self responding to the universe suddenly become a gadgetized, machinized eye. Now gadgetized, machinized eye has become an integral part of our sensibility. But again it started with multiple logics of sciences and sensibilities, where this logic of frozen image into moving image. So when you are actually watching a moving image, then you are not watching a moving image, you are watching a still image with a persistence of vision, with a dark element coming in between, which phi phenomenon and other kind of thing. All of you must be knowing that about a moving image. But when I watch it on a screen, so today we are thinking in the mindset of screen language. Most of the time you spend in front of the screen. I came here and I saw so many people just doing this. Yeah, out of 24 hours of your life, probably 28 hours you spend in front of the screen. Yeah, I'm not joking. Because sometime you are also, so there's nothing like dream. Dreams don't exist. Because you see in particular thing that this is a dream. So I am being programmed to dream as an image programmed by somebody. So who is looking at whom and who is telling whom? The complexities of the universal logics are so shuffled, chaotically hovering around you. So how to formulate self? And the self and the society and self and other self and no self. We talk about in a very different way called selfless society. Are we selfless or self-nil society? We are nullifying ourselves by converting into image of a self. So I used to say that who is looking at whom when I hold a camera? I am looking at myself, or behind the camera there is nobody, then who is looking at me? Then who is looking at whom? And then why we are throwing it up throughout the universe with multiple satellites and multiple kind of bandwidths and channels, and then we come back to receiving that logic. So who is the creator, who is the receiver, who is the maker? Do we make ourselves? Do we know what kind of a self I am within? Otherwise, what starts happening, those images start hovering around you. There is a concept called myth. Myth is that multiple and logical, illogical dimensions. Why human beings created myth? Just now I was talking about, you buy a very, very posh car or some kind of a very, very costly car, and you put Lord Ganesha in it. Which image is a myth? How they combine to you? What kind of a logics with myth becomes mythical? Is there a concept called reality? Because when I capture this, the frozen space and time can be fragmented. So this medium of moving images started fragmenting and reorganizing it in a manner which we call narratives or narratologies. So you watch somebody doing this, and after 6 minutes you watch him 6-year-old. Yeah, we are watching those kids. When they are 6-year-old, when they are now 15-year-old, and we are telling that they were moved from 6 to 15, when actually we are watching. So are we shuffling the major elements of our construction of space and time as self? And when the fractured or fragmented self, you have to recombine, reunite together to formulate a self. As she was saying, reinvent. Who invented me? Why? What are the issues of the futuristic logics of self? Because when we talk about universe and all those kinds of images with which you have grown up with, who created those? Yes, then we can go to the mythical context, then we'll go to the Freudian concept or Jungian concept and this and psychology. But finally, you are going to take a picture. You are going to take a picture and post it somewhere where nobody who knows nobody starts taking it and saying that I like it. And somebody says I don't like it. So we are sign creating people when we don't know that we are human because we create signs. Human beings are sign creating people. So what kind of a signs keep coming to us? As we are talking about this is good, this is bad. I remember when I was, as people are talking about, when I was sitting with a kid and making him look at an image, he was not at all interested in it. Then he wanted to show me the image which he drew. And I said, why you are showing? Because he said his teacher didn't like it. I said, why? Because he drew the apple with a chocolate color. I said, but it's very beautiful. Then he laughed at me and said, huh, really? It's beautiful because I like chocolates, therefore my apple is chocolatey. We have lost this inner sensibilities of expression. We are programmed. We are digitized ourselves. So I was watching a film in which two persons start talking and they get involved and they talk boy and a girl. And first they talk about, oh, wow, 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 that is over. And then they start talking in digits. So I've seen a work done by a person in which, suppose if I said, I really like your eyes, instead of I say 8392718892, then she says, instead of a wow, she says 445882. Oh, t. We have digitized ourselves. And we have completely forgotten that between 0 and 1, there are zillions of possibilities. That is the problem. We cannot invent us, we cannot create us, we cannot put us together as self. Then what kind of a self? Yeah, there are two pairs, XX, XY. Why not TED Y? Why not TED Z? And suppose I put some Urdu or Arabic or Farsi alphabet, why not that? For me, it's not the sign, it's the sensibility with which I enrich my being human is a sign. It makes me aware. It makes me think and change my horizons. Otherwise, those images will be just external tattoos. Because the someone who is writing on her name of her husband, which I saw 45, 50 years back, Rakhma Bai Sudhar Kamble, which is much different than Dekho Magar Pyar Se. Yeah. Who tattooized me? So we are gadgetized, we are machinized, and we started losing our interconnection with other senses. What we capture, I'll tell you a very beautiful experience in my life. In my class, couple of years back, there was a blind, sorry to use the word, but disabled, challenged person with his eyesight. And in the class, he used to walk and he joined a video class. Man, come on. Video production. So I used to ask him. And then he used to say, he was seeing much better than my rest of the students, the whole frame. One day I asked him, hey, why don't you take some photographs? And you won't believe. He took beautiful photographs of the college campus with the soundscaping. Only he used a gadget camera. But vehicle is coming. And suppose he knows this girl comes on that vehicle. He did beautiful photographs. I showed it in the class, and most of the people having their huge cameras or big things, kuch nahi le paye. Nothing happened. Same thing, the girl from Gadchiroli came to me. We asked her to take, there was a class in it, and I said, talking about it. And then what happened? Boy meets a girl. Where do they meet? She said, they never meet. I said, Yen, that's the most romantic thing, isn't it? Wow. A tribal girl. Because she has got the sensibility of smell from the old jungle where she is. And she wrote the best script. And then I started realizing it's necessary to unchain you, actually unjail you. Come out of the jail, remove this imprisonment and come out of it. And therefore, when we think about 1 and 0, if the light, photos means light and graphy means to get an impression with or to write with. So photography has given that. But what are the other senses with which we sense? I saw a beautiful thing in which the people or the persons who are blind and deaf or mute or whatever it is, from the birth, I've seen them telling a poetry to each other with a touch. We're lost all those senses, those 5 senses, and the 6th is being human is the sense. Otherwise, they digitized, humanized, regimented, individualized, isolated people keep on gathering and gathering and gathering data systems called this gigabytes and that gigabyte. I don't require a byte. I am. I have to be. And in which that 1 and 0 Probably all those images finally with light will go into big black hole. But in that black hole, again the light will come out. And that is the necessity today. Otherwise, everywhere there is a darkness. It's not the image being thrown on this, and people started fighting and quarreling and hitting and abusing each other. There are so many images around us and so many video clips and so many things. Are we heading towards this regimented, dehumanized, machinized self into the darkness? But I still keep, as they were asking, why did I come to this profession? Because I chose it. Images came from my inner sensibilities. Sound come from my inner sensibility. Touch come from my inner sensibility. Why we create? Why we have to create? So that I can relate to self, to other self, to many more self, and they are not regimented. They are diversely natural aspects of being self in such a beautiful, great way, and beyond galaxies and this and that. So, boson effect and Higgs and this and that and subatomic particles, space, time, scientists and artists are thinking in the same way, that there is something which we have to, and therefore I end my here. When I was abroad and we were talking about this is the great brain working in the science, this is the great brain, and we were talking in that, I was telling your professor just now, probably so many complicated or interesting things happening in the scientist's brain in a particular way, but probably one of the Kumar Gandharvas or Bhimsen Joshis or Mozart, they do it in a different way. They are both the part of human brain. Let's not make it 1 0 and 1 1 and this 0 and this 1. Otherwise, you'll be losing that interconnectivity to self, inner connectivity to self, and then we'll nullify ourselves as self. Otherwise, we call it ourselves a selfie generation. Thank you.